If I woke up tomorrow and my credit score had dropped and I had to rebuild my credit from scratch, these are the three credit cards I will apply for. I don't think enough people are talking about these cards, and each one has something totally different to offer. In this video, I'm going to tell you the type of credit score people are typically getting approved with, the starting limits, some of the highest reported limits people have shared, the fees, the APRs, and at the end, I'll teach you which one I'll personally choose. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first card. Come on. The first card I want to talk about is the Mercury Mastercard. I honestly don't think enough people are talking about this card. Everybody is always talking about Discover, Capital One, or Mission Lane, but the Mercury is one of those cards that quietly shows up on people's credit report. And a lot of card holders seem to have had positive experiences with it. Now, is this card perfect? Absolutely not, but I definitely think it's worth comparing if you're rebuilding your credit. If you're wondering who this card is really designed for, I'd say it's geared towards people with a fair to good credit. Now, from what I've seen, many people who report being approved are somewhere around a 620 credit score up to 700, although approvals depend on many more than just your credit score. Your income, your payment history, how much debt you have already had, all of that matters too. So don't focus on just your credit score. Let's talk about the credit limit because I know that's one of the first things everybody wants to know. Mercury does not promise the same limit for everyone. For what people have shared online, starting limits vary quite a bit. So some people report limits starting around $1,000, while others may have received $2,500 or $5,000 or even more, dependent on their credit profiles. One thing I found interesting is that some long-time Mercury card holders have reported credit limits reaching as high as $10,000 or more over time. Okay, you guys, so you don't get that credit limit right away. That is over time. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get $10,000, but it does show that some cardholders have been able to grow their credit line with responsible use, of course. Mercury reports to all three major credit bureaus. That's one of the biggest reasons I like this card, because if you're trying to rebuild your credit, you want every on-time payment working in your favor. Another thing people ask about are the annual fee. Depending on your offer, many MasterCard accounts come with no annual fee. That's something I personally like because rebuilding your credit is already expensive enough. If I can avoid paying an annual fee, I'm all for it. Now let's talk about the APR. Like a lot of cards, your APR depends on your offer and your qualification. Regardless of your exact rate you receive, my advice is always the same. Don't carry a balance if you don't have to. Use the card, pay it off, build your credit history. That is the real goal. So here's what I really like about the Mercury card. There is no security deposit required. They do report to all three major credit bureaus. Potential for higher limits above $10,000. Many offers don't have an annual fee. Clean mobile app that's easy to manage. Now, the downside about this card, the biggest downside is that not everyone can simply apply whenever they want. Mercury often targets potential customers through offers or invitations. So availability can be more limited than with some other cards. And like any other card, approval is never guaranteed. If I was rebuilding my credit, this card would absolutely be one of the first cards I will compare. Now, not necessarily because it's the easiest card to get, but because I like the possibility of starting with a decent limit and growing it over time. I also like that it reports to all three major credit bureaus. That means that it would definitely help me to build my credit. So for me, this one definitely earns a spot on my list. All right, let's move on to the second card. This is the one I think gets overlooked a lot, and that's the Merrick Bank Double Your Line Mastercard. Now, the reason this card caught my attention is because it's right there in the name, double your line. If you're rebuilding your credit, having the opportunity to grow your available credit over time can make a real difference, especially if you're making your payments on time and keeping your balances low. From what I've seen, it's generally aimed at people with poor to fair credit. A lot of approvals that people share online seem to fall in roughly that 550 to 680 credit score range. Now remember, that does not mean a 550 automatically gets you approved. And it doesn't mean someone with a 680 is guaranteed approval either. Merrick Bank is also looking at your income, your payment history, your current debt, and your overall ability to repay. Now let's talk about the credit limit. Most people report starting somewhere between $500 and $3,000. Where you land depends on your individual application. So if you're rebuilding your credit, don't get discouraged if your limit isn't huge at first. Sometimes the goal isn't about getting a $10,000 limit today. So the goal is proving you can manage the credit you're given so you can qualify for a bigger limit later down the line. This is what makes this card different. For eligible cardholders, Merrick Bank says it may be double your credit line after you've made your required minimum payment on time for a qualifying period, otherwise met the account term. For a qualifying period and otherwise met the account term. Here's an example. Let's say you start with a $1,000 limit. If you qualify under the program, that could become $2,000 without you having to submit a separate credit line increase request. Now, not everyone qualifies, but I do like seeing a clear path, potential growth. Well, what's the highest limit people have reported? I've seen card holders share credit limits around $4,000 up to $6,000 or more after using the card responsibly over time. Again, those are individuals' experiences. They're not guaranteed, but they do show that responsible use can lead to higher limits for some people, which is definitely a plus in my eyes. Merrick Bank reports to all three major credit bureaus. That's exactly what you want when you are rebuilding your credit. Every on time payment helps build payment history. And as I've said before, payment history is one of the biggest factors that affect your credit score. Now let's talk about the annual fees because we got to talk about the annual fees. This is where you need to pay attention. Depending on your specific offer you receive, some Merrick Bank double your line master offers have no annual fees while others do. So don't assume your offer will match someone else's. Always read the terms before you accept. The APR also depends on the offer you receive. And just like I tell you with every rebuilding card, try not to carry a balance if you can avoid it. Use the card for something small. Pay it off every single month. Build your credit history without paying unnecessary interest. So here's what I really like about this card. The opportunity for an automatic credit line increase if you qualify. Report to all three major credit bureaus. No security deposit is required. Can be a solid option for people rebuilding credit. What I don't like about this card, some offers include an annual fee. Rewards aren't the focus of this card. Approval depends on your full financial profile. So before accepting, compare it with a couple of other options to make sure it's the best fit for you. If I was rebuilding my credit, this would definitely make my comparison list. The biggest reason is that the potential to increase your available credit over time. A higher credit limit can help lower your credit utilization as long as you're not increasing your spending as well. So if I receive a good offer with responsible terms, I will consider this card. Now let's get to the third and final card. This one is designed for people rebuilding credit, but there are a few things about it that I think you should know before you decide whether it's right for you. Let's talk about it. All right, let's get into the third and final card. This one is probably the most controversial card on today's list, and that's the Milestone Mastercard. Now, before anybody jumps into the comment, no, I'm not just saying this is the best credit card on the market. What I am saying is that for some people who are rebuilding credit and can't qualify elsewhere, it may be one of the cards that they can compare. So let's talk about it. One of the biggest questions I know you're asking is, can I qualify for this card? From what I've seen, many approved applicants tend to have a credit score in roughly the 500 or up to 650 range, with approval data often clustering around the mid 500s. But remember, that's based on reported approvals and matching data, not a guaranteed approval score. The bank is also looking at things like your income, your credit debt, your payment history, and your overall credit profile. So don't think your credit score is the only thing that matters. Now let's talk about the credit starting limit. Most people who are approved report starting limits somewhere around $300 up to $1,000, with many offers coming in closer to the lower end of that range. Credit Karma's matching data shows $300 is the most common limit with a average credit limit starting around $700 or $900, depending on the version of the card. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that's not a lot, and you are absolutely right. But remember, when you are rebuilding your credit, sometimes getting approved and building positive payment history is more important than just a huge starting limit. I've seen people report receiving 1,000 credit limits on certain milestone offers. Some versions of the card are even marketed with a $1,000 credit limit, but many applicants receive a lower limit depending on their qualification. Again, don't apply expecting the highest limit. Apply because the card fits your rebuilding strategy. The Milestone Mastercard reports to all three major credit bureaus. That's one reason some people choose it. If you're making every payment on time, you're building positive payment history. That is exactly what you want. Now, here's where you really need to pay attention. Milestone offers different versions of this card. Some have lower annual fees, some have higher annual fees, and some offers may include other maintenance costs. So before you accept any offer, read the term carefully. Don't assume your offer is the same as somebody else's. That's one thing I always tell people. Read the fine print first. Like many cards designed for rebuilding credit, the APR can be pretty high. That's why I always tell people don't use this card to carry a balance. Use them to build credit. Buy something small, pay it off, repeat. That's how you get the benefit without paying unnecessary interest. So here's what I like about this card. No security deposit, reports to all three major credit bureaus, designed for people rebuilding credit. Can be an option if you have trouble qualifying elsewhere. Now, here's what I don't like about this card. Annual fees can be expensive dependent on the offer. Starting credit limits are often lower. No program, no rewards program. Better options may exist if you qualify. If I was rebuilding my credit, the Milestone Mastercard wouldn't automatically be my first choice. But if I had limited options and received a reasonable offer, I'll compare it against the other cards we've talked about today before making my final decision. So, if I had to build my credit from scratch, here's how I rank these cards. I will put Milestone in third place. It can help rebuild credit because it reports to all three major credit bureaus. But the potential, fees, and lowering starting limits means I want to compare it carefully with other options first. Merrick Bank Double Your Line Mastercard. I really like the possibility of doubling your credit line after eligible on-time payments. That's a feature you don't see on every rebuilding card. If you're responsible with your credit card, that extra available credit will help you keep your credit utilization low over time. Mercury Mastercard. My number one pick is the Mercury Mastercard. The reason is simple. I like the possibility of starting with a stronger credit limit for some applicants. Many offers don't have an annual fee. It reports to all three credit bureaus, and I think it's one of the most overlooked cards in this space. If I was starting all over, this is the one I would personally compare first. Those are the three credit cards I would compare if I had to rebuild my credit from scratch. Now, I want to hear from you all. Have you had the Mercury Mastercard, the Merrick Bank Double Your Line Mastercard, or the Milestone Mastercard? What was your starting credit limit? And what was your credit score when you got approved, if you're comfortable with sharing? And would you recommend this card to someone who's rebuilding their credit? Drop your experiences in the comments because it could really help someone else who's trying to make the right decision. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more videos on credit cards, personal loans, business credit, work from home opportunities, and credit repair. Until next time, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.